Good morning, everybody. It's 10 o'clock, and we'll call the meeting to order with roll call. Please.
Allen,
Brown here.
Fraz,
Fry's here.
Copey,
Hope is here.
Leonard,
Leonard here.
Sanchez, Kenyon,
Here. How about Shepro?
Shepro,
Oh, Shepro and Allen are sleeping, so we're safe. We need a motion to approve the minutes.
Leonard so moves.
Leonard moves, Brown seconds. Is there discussion on these? A roll call, please. Is that free gifts, Mr. Arnold?
Brown,
Yes.
Fraz, Copey,
Fry's, yes.
Hope yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Allen, Kenyon,
Yes. Okay, the minutes are approved. Is there any public comment? If we have none. Stephen Arnold, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay.
Good morning. I may have stretched the truth a little bit. I'm not completely ready. Because I'm playing without a net, I don't have any notes. But a couple of things I want to update the committee members on. First of all, I was asked to bring back more refrigerator magnets about what's in season. So there are about 50 copies here today. If anybody would like to take one home so they know what fresh fruits and vegetables are in season here in Illinois. We also had a peach pickup, fresh Southern Illinois peaches shipped to our office earlier this week. So there's a bag on the table for the members who are here today. If they want to have a fresh peach for lunch, please help yourself.
They
And
have a wine pickup too, so we can have a bottle of wine. I like that.
and also, as a follow-up on the complimentary memberships, in order for us to put the memberships in, we must have a telephone number. So I have partially completed applications for membership, for professional membership in the King County Farm Bureau for the committee members who are here this morning. If we can get that telephone number, then we can get that membership started. For those of you who are not here, I think, well, we can't actually drop them in the mail and mail them anywhere other than the county board building because we cannot find home addresses. So I'm not sure what the most workable solution is.
I think you could give it and these ladies would put it in their box and they could lay there till the box gets too full.
Okay, that will be
That would be Mr. Copey.
that will be the way the way that we proceed with that. A couple of updates. Earlier this month, our not-for-profit foundation did a drive-through barbecue dinner to raise money for the foundation for scholarship programs. We also did a scholarship awards ceremony and volunteer appreciation at the King County Cougars earlier this month. That was a big success. Our foundation gave about $20,000 this year to 14 scholars that are pursuing higher education for careers in agriculture at colleges actually all across the country. And we will repeat that drive-through barbecue fundraiser with Phase Barbecue on Thursday, September 9th. And we're going to do that on Thursday, September 9th, because that's when we conclude our biggest fundraiser, which is a vintage truck raffle. So we're going to ask our members to drive through, help themselves to a barbecue dinner with a little payment. expected. Give them a last chance to buy a ticket for that fundraiser, and we will draw the winner of a 1972 Chevy C20 camper special that evening. And again, as I said, I came in this morning without notes. I do have copies of our August Kane County Farmer for the committee members that are up here with the refrigerator magnets and the peaches. Happy to report that although numbers were down for livestock exhibitors at the Kane County Fair, attendance at the fair was up significantly this year. The sale proceeds for the 4-H'ers at the Blue Ribbon Livestock Sale, I believe, set an all-time record, and I want to say 189,000. But I know that the number is printed in the King County Farmer. So a successful show season for the 4-H'ers who did bring livestock to the county fair. And I believe that's all I have to report on, since I don't have any notes.
Do you remember the retirement party for Doris Braddock? Is that-
I do not have the date. I know that there is
it's-
a retirement party for one of the workers at the University of Illinois Extension Office who has coordinated 4-H programs and fair projects for the extension, Doris Braddock, for the last 19 years. And there is, I will check my phone and see if it's in my phone, but I believe it is the 29th of this month. There is a recognition program, and I apologize, I do not have it in my phone. 29th cannot be right. Maybe it's the 27th, because 29th is a Sunday. So my
I think it's
apologies.
probably the 27th, but recognizing her for all her work for the youth of the county. Well, and actually, she works with several counties.
Also, just briefly, in 2020, our organization put in a pollinator rain garden along Randall Road in cooperation with the county's Environmental and Water Resources Division, with assistance from the Forest Preserve District and the Conservation Foundation. We're going to get together next month or at the end of this month and talk about improvements and additions to that. The Farm Bureau has removed some dying spruces on its property to make way for a bioswale, which is another best management practice that is allowed under the county stormwater ordinance in lieu of stormwater detention for improvements on farms. So we want to add that and improve the pollinator garden. And after this morning's meeting, This Week in Agribusiness is coming to our location to do an interview for their Saturday morning show about that project, because there were not a whole lot of public projects going on during the pandemic last year in July. And that project did receive an award from the American Farm Bureau Federation, a County Activities of Excellence Award. And Mr. Kenyon and other volunteers from the Farm Bureau will be going. Are you going to Atlanta? We'll be going to Atlanta in January to talk about that project with members who attend. our
What's a
national
long time?
convention.
How many times have we been? I remember last time we went to Atlanta, there was an ice storm. And everybody had to get out early. You couldn't walk across the street. You talk about global warming, but the weather shift. But it was amazing because there was people had to dump piles of sand and throw it because they didn't have any way of spreading it, like we do up here. They didn't have last minute work.
I do have one other thing, Mr. Kenyon. Our statewide organization since 1979 has done an agricultural leadership development program on a statewide basis. They move it regionally from north to central to southern Illinois every other year or every every 3 years. It's called ALOT, Agricultural Leaders of Tomorrow. And it's not just for farmers, it's for people involved in ag-related professions and to help them develop leadership skills and get exposure to other areas of the industry and especially to government leaders. That program will be coming to Northern Illinois in early 2022. It's about a 9-month program, 3 days a month for about 9 months. And many of the sessions that don't take place in Springfield will be taking place in Northern Illinois, I think concentrated in DeKalb, Sycamore, and Rockford. So I have some brochures for that are designed really for employers of people that they think could benefit from a leadership development program, but I'm going to leave those in the back of the room here also.
If Van Kirkhoff was here, we'd encourage him to send his people to that. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, what, the drive-through for Phase Barbecue, what are the hours going to be for that?
The hours will be 3 to 7 p.m. It's a pork chop or chicken or combo drive-through, $15 or $16 a plate, depending on whether it's
How did the
Whether
last
it's
one
purchased in
go, the
advance.
numbers?
We did it a week ago today. It was the first time we ever tried it. We only had 2 days of promotion. We sold 197 dinners in advance, and they sold another 200 a total of 400. So we thought it wasn't a bad thing for the first time. Many places that do this, I think the crowds better understand that that no RSVP is necessary, that you don't have to be a member. It's just a way to grab something on your way home and not have to cook. Delicious barbecue dinners. As says somebody who always thought chicken was a texture and not a flavor.
It was good.
It was
chicken.
delicious.
And the pork chop was very.
Location and date?
At the King County Farm Bureau in front of Costco on Randall Road. The date is Thursday, September 9th from
9/9.
3 to 7 p.m., 9/9/21.
Thank you.
One further question, Steve. For soil testing, sometimes, residents or whomever would like to get their soil tested in their yard because their grass is all dying and such. Is that something the Farm Bureau does, or is that the Extension Office?
Actually, the Farm Bureau does soil testing. One of the few places anymore that you can find soil testing, but we do soil testing for members and non-members. They are sent to a lab in downstate Illinois. It takes about 2 weeks to get the results back, and depending on the how much information and recommendations you want determines the cost of the soil test, whether it's just macronutrients or whether they want tests for micronutrients also. And then people can follow up with the University of Illinois Extension for other recommendations. We also offer water testing twice a year, and we will be doing well water testing in the month of October. We don't have the dates established yet.
And for someone that was going to bring some soil in, approximately how much do they need to bring in? A coffee can full or?
About a cup and a half for each sample. So the best way to sample soil is to go to 4 or 5 places in the lawn, get a slice of soil several inches deep, have no organic matter in it, dry it if possible, and then mix those 5 samples together to get a sample about a cup and a half to 2 cups.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We would note that Mrs. Debbie Allen has arrived with treats, and those of you who don't have time to come here, we will eat your donuts, so you don't get to eat them virtually.
Mr. Chairman, this is Kopi.
Mr. Copey?
Hi, how are you? Thank you. I was just curious. I would like to, first of all, does that pig happen to be Jamie Moser's $1,600 pig, or is Jamie going to keep that for herself? And then the other question is, I want to thank Jamie for her participation in that auction. I was too cheap to do the deal, but I was certainly invited. But my hat's off to her. She's got a lot of courage to spend that kind of money on a pig. Thank you.
Jamie Mosser bought was it a steer? Yeah, she should bring us treats, chipped beef or something like that, or sliced beef. That'd be really a nice treat for staff and board members.
It was a pig, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, if we could do, we'll just have to tell her about it. Okay, if there's no other questions, River to Field.
That is me. So Mark is upstairs, still meeting with the two tourism bureaus from the north and southern part of the county. I joined them for a discussion at 9 o'clock, and it's still going on. I had a chance to bring them up to date and get a little bit of input from the tourism bureaus on this concept too.
You're
And-
not very loud.
Loud? Okay.
Try the other one.
Oh, because it wasn't on.
Janice,
All right, come
Jesus,
on. What's
is
wake
this your
up.
first week?
Wake up, right? Okay, so yeah, Mark is upstairs, still meeting with the two tourism bureaus, north and south. And I joined them at 9 o'clock and had a chance to go over some of the concepts in this PowerPoint and our discussions, and he'll try to join us as soon as he can. And so this is about, I think, the third time I've talked about this concept of river to field passport program. So these are just to bring you up to date on kind of the latest thinking, and let me know what you think about it. So one of the things that I reminded them upstairs, and it's like a good reminder for all of us, that this concept of river to field comes out of the planning work that we're doing. Matt and I are land use planners. We are not tourism professionals, and nor are we farmers or, any of the people that we work with, but we try to include in our work the policies that the board has approved and set forth. And of course, the foundational document for this work is our land use strategy, that has the Fox River on the east and the farm fields on the west, and protecting both of their natural resources. And of course, all of the natural resources, and respecting those that we have, as well as building on that to include historic cultural population. And I just wanted to note too, as a reminder for those that have not been around for a long time, that when I first came here, we were working out of the 2020 plan. Of course, we've passed 2020, and that was a land resource management plan. If any of you remember the big book, I wanted to bring down the document. That was not a comprehensive plan. That was a land resource management plan that worked specifically authorized through that language, that ordinance, the Land Resource Management Act. But it really was to look at the natural resources of Kane County and protect them. And I remember looking at that and saying to my directors at that time, this is not a comprehensive plan, me being a young planner, right? Where's the comprehensive plan that deals with the people, that deals with the culture, the communities, all these other things? And they said, that was not what it was meant to be. This is just the land resource. And that was a fine document to get us started, because that was really the county's first big document, if you remember. So we have since then gone to a more comprehensive plans, the 2030, and now we're working out of the 2040. But the one thing that has stayed constant is this land use strategy, right? As we've built on these other things. And I think always, in all of the work that I've ever looked back on the county, the Fox River is foundational, and retaining half of our land base for farm fields and natural resources, fundamental to the work that we do. So that's why we have the authority as land use planners to even venture into this topic of tourism. So, and I wanted to remind, and I did remind the professionals upstairs, it's like, I am not a tourism professional. I'm not going to be. I'm a tourist. I love to travel. I'm like been an armchair tourist like all of us for the last year and a half with COVID. But that we are at the number one stage, the pitching the concept stage, that this project, this passport project is one where we're kind of getting input and keeping, trying to get responses to how does this feel? How does this look? Does this fit with the county goals, our planning goals and all these things like that? And they gave me, of course, great input, which was awesome. They're really super professionals up there. But then we will move into a more formal stage, which is that center where we work with tourism professionals, the farmers, the Fabulous Fox Water Trail team, all those people that work specifically in this work to take it from there, because they're the experts, they're the subject matter experts in this. So it won't be something that Janice streams up. You would not want that. You want something that is comprehensive, and we've had the best success, of course, when we've done it that way. And then the third component that we always do, and we learned this back from our Robert Wood Johnson days, if you remember that grant, the Healthy Communities Grant that set us forth on the work that we're doing in local foods, as well as our work with the Pew Trust. Those two big grants to the county really taught us that we have to do our research ahead of time, and we need to do economic research, health research, and make sure that whatever we create is matching the policies of the county, and also has giving us what we want right out of our policies. Because you could hire a consultant that could create all of this and bring it to you if they did it out of a vacuum. And we don't do things that way. Some places do, but we haven't done our work that way in a long time. We use outside experts, but we want to make sure that while we're looking at what's happening in national trends and we're looking at regional examples, that we're really making it customized to what we want here. But that takes time. The second thing that I wanted to emphasize is like why I picked this passport concept. And this was interesting for me to kind of test that when I talked to the tourism professionals upstairs. I said, as a tourist, I really see the benefit for us and the kind of work that we do by using the passport. Now, I brought one example, and if you Google passport programs, you'll see there are all kinds. I'm going to hand this to Deb Allen, and then you can see, Deb, this is a brochure on one type of passport program, but I will tell you by now, most of the passport programs are also digital. So you can go into a community and get their brochure and then get stamps. And some people like to do that. But also some people always want to work just from their phone, and that option is pretty much available everywhere you're doing these things. But the concept is that you present a passport to someone, and sometimes they buy it in advance. Sometimes, and it seems like that's how it often happens, that they purchase this passport, and then the stamps are stops along the way, suggested routes. And then you get it stamped. There are possibilities for prizes, there are possibilities for connections, but the best part of it for us is that there's data collection. There's a way to track what happens. So when you look at the details of these tourism programs, they'll report out every year. We had these number of stops, these number of passports purchased, these number of stamps. So you get a feel for what's popular, what's not popular. And is this paying off in the way your investment? Is your investment yielding what you want? And that's the kind of work that we have done in our area. So that's why I picked the passport concept. I think it's also been very successful during COVID because you can pick these different routes and things. Those options are endless. You could pick a beer route. You could pick a wine route. Those are very popular, obviously, in California, the wine trails. You could do a family one. You could do a local foods one. The themes are endless and they're changeable over time. And I feel like that could also be a benefit. It's something you do one big investment, but you can change the concepts, the locations over time. Of course, for us at this committee, we're looking very much at local foods and farms, but the themes go on and on. The other idea behind passport programs is to highlight your hidden gems. So even if you've lived here a long time, you might not realize that, oh, we've got all these different things, and they are also serve as prompts to go there, which is the nice thing about the passport program is you might have an envision that, okay, I'm going to go to Wiltsey's to get strawberries, which was my original story that I told you. But then there's cross promotion. And from that, there are other recommended stops nearby or related to that that builds upon that. So you have one visit turns into many visits, thus the stamps on the program. But you can create these themes. These are programs that we already have. So it's not like we're reinventing these things. We're using and capturing our hidden gems and bringing them to the forefront. And again, this isn't just for visitors. This is for residents as well. I think you may have seen some of the museum, Kane County museums. I think they have one too that kind of features Kane County museums, and it's a kid's passport, same kind of thing. The idea is to create a program, a summer activity, in that case for the kids, so that they have something to do over time. These became also very popular, and I think will continue to be during COVID, because a lot of these are like pre-vetted locations, which is the other advantage to the host, is that you're going to be receiving visitors and you can handle them accordingly. And so that's another good aspect of that. So it could be on the food side, it could be our local farmers markets, retail outlets, farm stands. Those are obviously the things that we're mostly concerned with here in the community, but just as important are our rustic roads, our protected farms, which help to create those scenic vistas and moments of serenity and relief from the built environment. And I have to say that those things are even mentioned in our farmland protection ordinance in terms of why we have the ordinance. So we don't want to forget about that too. I mean, but at the same time, you don't want to extend the roads, right? So there's lots of ways you have to work through this to make sure that if you're featuring a rustic road, if you're featuring Brundage is ready for those visitors at that time too. Then we have all of our historic landmarks, which are throughout the county in the urban area, all the way to the county line, whether they're an agriculture remnant, cemeteries, farm buildings. Some are visible from the road, some you get out and take a look at. Some are museums and buildings and along sidewalks and all kinds of things. It's endless in terms of our historic resources. And then just as important are the people from Kane County. I'm featuring a farmer there holding a chick because that's what we're thinking of, but there are people and stories throughout Kane County, past and present, that are worthy of featuring. And so that tied with other things, there are endless stories and paths and trails you can create. And then, of course, what we learned from the work, as I mentioned with RWJ and Pew, you have to always keep in mind, why are we doing this? What's the public purpose in this case? And the first one that came to my mind, it's just one, was kind of like to showcase or feature, but protect at the same time. We don't want to overrun our resources so that they're not sustainable. We want to make sure that while we're showcasing them, we're still protecting them in the process. I think I mentioned some of the things about the passport that I like. When it's virtual in particular, there are links that you can have right on your phone, and it can get information to people immediately. There's also the communication aspect, hours, when there's change in hours for locations and things like that, roads, safety, in this case, COVID, all of that is now part of the passport program. It seems people can log on and say, oh, these are all the things I need to know if I'm going to venture out and do this. Sharing the road, if you're a cyclist, all those different things. And then finally, the other common denominator I've seen in these passport programs is that they're story driven. So they want people to share their stories, take pictures, Instagram and photos right now, that's everything. In terms of taking your picture and posting it on social media. But that's exactly what this is. What did you visit? What resonated with you? What's your story? Some have photos, some are just testimonials, but this is a big part of what I've seen just looking at passport programs around the country. So to me, what that means is the selling point of this concept comes from the people who use it over time. And of course, the strategy that we've talked about before, from the Fox River to the field and everything in between, but the benefits, of course, the Fox River itself, the benefit of the river, what that means to Kane County, you know, digging deep on that. And then you get to the next step, which is right now the national designation as a water trail is going to be something that we can capture and highlight as that happens. That's going to, we'll have national attention for this. And so I do think capturing and embracing that moment when that happens is going to be critical, but also reminding people of the functional aspects of the river and what does that mean to King County, past, present, future. There's a big conservation message, I think, with that. Nature RX, that doesn't take much, I mean, that's like push away from your computer, go outside and get healthy because you're in nature. Everyone's recognizing that that's really important for longevity, and we have the places for that. It's just showing where they are. And then, of course, our healthy vegetables and food produced here. That's our purpose in terms of highlighting that, being prepared for that. But there's another layer beyond that, and some of that you'll see in our work as we move forward in the next year or two that we're doing anyway, but I think can inform this is, so if you're going to project more production needed, our farmers need to know about it. So if we're going to have more visitors and we're anticipating that, then that has to be calculated in when their expansion, and we want to know, how do we help our farmers prepare for that? These are the things we want, but it's one thing to say you want this, it's another thing to have the farmers execute it. So there are lots of aspects to this that we will cross-work with or cross-reference with the work that we're doing already. Also, there's, you know, the outdoor recreation component. You just have to drive around King County to know that, I mean, you see this happening anywhere, people on the river, anyway, people on the river, people biking, walking, all these things, but how do you know, who's working in this in Kane County, and how do we make sure that it's tied in? This is where we start to reach out a little bit to our partners. And then, of course, the community connections. Every community has efforts going on, and you want to make sure that tourists and residents take advantage of what the various communities are offering, and that and the economic benefit, of course, is keeping our dollar here in Kane County, capturing outside dollars, but also keeping our local dollar. Now, these are some of the concepts that I haven't talked about to you before. The first one that I have the arrow over is kind of this basic concept of the personal passport. This is Janice as a traveler or a resident coming through and using the program and how it would be done. But there are some other potential ones that I've seen in my research that I think are worthy of further investigation and could complement the work that we're already doing. So the first one that I'm going to highlight is that one in the box called local economy. That's business to business partnerships within the river to field business network. So that means creating a network of all those businesses that are in this and creating a synergy between those businesses. So for example, if there's a venue, a museum, a venue that brings groups of people in, right, and they have to be fed, we certainly want that venue to connect with our local food producers and retailers to make sure that they are first using our local foods and featuring those. And that way everyone benefits, and we keep that dollar local, and those businesses capture the benefit of each other. And those combinations could be endless, but you have an automatic network when you have those stops that have been passport stops where they've self-selected that they want to be on the passport route. So you already have businesses there. Now there could be related businesses that jump in there, but working to create those business partnerships And that is one thing that I'm seeing. It's a little would be, haven't seen it within this network, but I'm starting to see that business to business within the local foods world. Then the next option would be something that is related to that. And that is, let's say you have a business in Kane County, or you want to start a business in Kane County, or any kind of expansion. And you see that this theme of river to field fits with your business concept or your expansion concept. You can be part of a cohort, accelerator, or some program that can help support your efforts. So if you're building kayaks, because now all of a sudden because of our national trail, we have a lot of more kayakers on here, and you've got a special aspect to your kayak that nobody else has, wouldn't that be great to have that business here in Kane County and to be known for that? Now, I didn't dream this up. This is something that's used in other parts of the country. I'm looking at North Carolina right now, where they're capturing this outdoor economy and trying to link new business development and entrepreneurial development with that. So we'll be learning more. Karen and I are going to a conference there in the fall. We'll learn more and tell you more about it when we come back. But this is where you truly start to expand jobs beyond what you might consider traditional tourism jobs, service jobs, into manufacturing and business, other business jobs. The same thing can be said for the box the furthest on the right, is like leveraging this theme with our libraries, schools, institutions, all of these places where people are, and link and expose our programs to that. I know that the libraries are always looking for new themes for what they will offer, and this would be one of those things, for example. And then finally, at the bottom on the left, that river to field passport learning. I just called it learning because there's so many aspects to that, but I'm really thinking of not so much the informal learning that might be in that right box, but more of a certifications and jobs and all the things that are connected to that. We hear about in our world for farms that there are new training programs and things offered all the time for farmers. Well, if it happens to help them in their business and moving forward and being part of this, then that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. And I'm sure that that's just one pathway there. You need to have a workforce to pull all of this off, and all of the schools, training centers, everybody involved with training people need to understand the components of this program and why it's there. And that in itself will be a job. So there's lots of spin-offs, as you can see, and none of this is all going to happen within our department. These are the spin-off programs, but they do need to be coordinated with the overall theme. But these are specializations that need to happen kind of on their own. So they might complement our work, but these are areas of very specific that require very specific expert experience to pull them off. And same goes with the market opportunity. I mean, it's nice to dream up, oh, it would be nice if we did all these different things, but what does it cost and what is the return on investment? I mean, those are the questions that anyone asks when you start something, right? And we certainly know from our work that we've done in the grant world and the projects that we've done that, you have to really look at this. Well, in tourism, which was confirmed from our tourism experts upstairs too, accommodations, that's where the money is derived from. That's where their funding source comes from. That's why it's hurting so much right now, because during the pandemic, we lost so much revenue in general across the country through accommodations. And so, but this getting people to stay overnight and maybe even 2 nights or beyond that is really where the money starts to make a big difference in the community. And then connected with that is food service. People have to eat, right? So that's usually the third area of subsection of travel and tourism spending. So those two. And then there's this growing one, which is called sustainable tourism. This is really a global, it can be global and it can be micro, right? at the local level. But the idea is that, you know, you're really respecting the area that you're visiting and you're not taking away more than, and you're leaving it in at least the same shape or better shape as when you touch it. And I feel like this is really, really important. I mean, this is foundational to the work we do, right? Farmland protection, water resource. I mean, this is why we do what we do. But when you start having people use resources more than what is anticipated, you have to have this in the back of your mind. Like, how is that going to be? Who's going to pay for that? And sometimes that's built in to this process, right? So I think if we keep this in the back of our mind that, you know, you bring visitors, there's going to be a wear and tear, and who's going to pay for that, right? So we really have to think about how that's done. That's sometimes built into the cost. I've seen this in sustainable tourism, so that it's, you know, there's a way to rebuild and restore what's happening over and over. Big new, kind of like a new topic, but I think it's one that we should really pay attention to. And the dollars and how, and estimating those dollars, I mean, this is where we need the professionals, the economists that do this on a regular basis to advise us on this, because you don't want to over project and you don't want to under project, and you want to make sure your programming matches the money that you have coming in, because everything costs, whether it's the organization that's running the whole thing, all the way down to the businesses. In our case, we're looking at farms, you know, they have to estimate ahead of time. Oh, okay, if we're going to have more visitors, we're going to create more product. This is one more market expansion. What can we expect from that growth over time? And that affects their inputs, right? So all of these things, you know, you have to kind of think out before you just launch into them. And so that's pretty much it. I just want to remind everyone, it's like under discussion. I want to hear, I'd love to hear your reaction to this, and then we continue to research and learn, and then we'll be bringing pieces forward as we learn more. Like how do you pull this off will be one of the big questions, I'm sure. But does anyone have any specific questions? Thoughts?
As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking we got to thank Debbie Allen for finding more money for farmland protection.
Yes, we do.
She doesn't give up. I'll just tell you people that.
Thank you.
Here, here.
And it's not often that we're able to change directions,
Mhm.
but she helped us do it. It was a good thing, Debbie Allen.
Thank you for,
And then
the
something
leadership.
else, Stephen Arnold, remember they elected Veteran of the Year? No, what was, is that with agriculture?
Yes, and now I'm struggling to remember the exact title, but the Illinois Farmer Veteran Coalition selected Tony Fursky of Garlic Breath Farm as its first recipient of the Farmer Veteran of the Year
It's a
award
statewide
that
thing.
was presented at the Illinois State
Kane
Fair.
County's always leading the way. Yeah. I was remembering that from our meeting, and we have to talk about these things. And you all got an envelope in your mailbox about Midwest ground covers? Did you remember that? You didn't throw it away.
Did anyone check their mailbox?
That's a tour over there. You've got to go. I don't remember. It's
Wednesday, September 8th, beginning at 1:30 for green industry members. And then from 3 to 6, they're doing a program to thank their guests, which are state legislators, for including the green industry among those essential businesses that were allowed to remain open during the COVID pandemic.
You should just go there to see all the good work that they do it with plant breeding. It's something you see on TV and you think it's out in California, but it's right here in Kane County. It's pretty cool, pretty cool. Now do you want to move on to growing for Kane?
Mr. Kenyon, I have a question first for Janice.
Oh, one more, okay.
Sanchez here. Maybe it's a little early to put some numbers together, but do you have an estimate cost that this program might come in at?
We're working on it. I'm gonna let my director say.
Yeah, I'll address that. We are working, we have our entire team working on different aspects of the cost to
Stump the presenter.
design and launch, as well as Janice probably mentioned before this meeting, we were meeting with the directors of our two convention visitors bureaus so that once we, design this, that we actually have a reach outside of the county for marketing and drawing people in. So we're working to pull together a comprehensive package to submit for funding, as well as good explanations of how those dollars would be used. So I don't have a dollar number for you today, but we're working very hard on it.
All right, thank you.
Good work, Jared. Stump the
They're
presenter.
they're
yeah.
doing the work. now.
Yeah. Let's go to growing for Kane.
Good morning. Thank you. So I have two program updates that I would like to cover today. The first is going to be reviewing the annual monitoring that we have to conduct for the Farmland Protection Program. This is a requirement of USDA and the Natural Resource Conservation Service for any entity that receives funding through a farm conservation program, easement conservation program. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about the process for that, as well as the results of our monitoring. So again, this is required by USDA. And so this includes easements that we monitor across the county. And that includes easements that have been created under the current program is the Agricultural Conservation Easement Program. The predecessor to that was the Farm and Ranch Lands Protection Program. And the original program actually constitutes most of the easements that have been established in Kane County. They were created under that FRPP program. And so there are, different, regulations and policies that apply to each of those, but the essence of both of those is the same. They're designed to conserve and protect agricultural land through permanent protective easements. And so, we prepare and submit reports every year around this time of year to NRCS, and they update the information that we provide them in their system. If there have been ownership changes, if there have been any observations that we make as far as how those easements are being used, they would receive our reports and update their information. So the monitoring process is pretty straightforward. There was a time when we had to do on-site inspections where we had to go out into the field and visually inspect every farm, every easement to see if, there are essentially non-agricultural activities going on, which that hasn't ever been the case for the program. But if it was, we would then work with the landowner to inform them of the obligations of the conservation easement so they can be in compliance with that. Now, what NRCS allows us to do is that we can review the most currently available aerial imagery and review that to see, essentially what is taking place on each farm and each easement that is held by on a property that's participating. And so since we get every year, the Kane County GIS department updates the mapping system. So we get new maps every year. So we always have current visual aerial imagery that we can use to monitor those easements. And then the second component of the program is just to verify the current ownership of the property that is within an easement. And so we can, the quickest way we can do that is by checking the county tax record, so we can see where the tax bill is being sent and who the owner is. But we also do have a practice now of calling the property owners just to see if there have been any ownership changes that they can tell us about on the spot. And it's also an opportunity just to make sure that the contact information that we have for participants in the program is current and up to date, just so that we're maintaining current records. So this is just a summary of the monitoring that we just recently concluded. There are currently 32 conservation easement agreements. This is one more than we had last year because we added the gray urban conservation easement last year. And we also have 10 additional easements that did not receive federal funding. So these are easements that were either donated to the county or that just received funding through county sources, but with no federal match. And so there were 10 of those easements that we reviewed. And so those easements obviously include, in some cases, multiple parcels. So there are 100 total parcels. So this is within easements that have received a federal match. And so we reviewed all of those, and then 34 additional parcels that did not receive that federal match, that are just donated or just county funded. We did also document 5 changes in ownership over the previous year. So in some cases, these properties might have been sold, or a spouse might have passed away, and so the ownership information was updated to reflect that. So there are usually a handful of ownership changes every year, just as ownership circumstances change. So there were 5 ownership changes among the federally funded easements, and then 2 among the non-federally funded easements. So that's the updates I have on the monitoring. So if anybody has questions on that, if not, I can move on to the other Growing for Kane and Farm to School program updates. So as I've mentioned in previous meetings, we did conclude the USDA grant-funded portion of the JJC Farm to School program. So our program funding period concluded at the end of June. So we're in the process of doing our program assessments and submitting all of our final reports to USDA for this program. So I did just want to share a quick summary of how the funding has been used generally. So this is just a breakdown among general funding categories of how the funding has been used over the last 3 years. You can see that the bulk of that was for contractual services. So essentially that paid for 18 months of project management, and there was also a contractual garden manager that assisted the JJC staff with caring for the garden, watering, planting, harvesting. But most of it was that project management. So we had a consultant that we worked with who managed all of the expenses, project meetings, tracked all of the program data, and that was over an 18-month period before that contract expired. And then obviously the other bulk of expenses was for supplies, so all of the garden improvements, the tower gardens, curriculum materials, textbooks. So that really makes up the bulk of the supplies that were purchased with the grant funding. And so in addition to the funding provided through the grant, the county also made contributions to this program, both in terms of funding and material donations, as well as the in-kind value of staff time. And so As far as the material contributions, we were able to use some of the reserve growing for cane funds to purchase, some essential materials along the way that weren't necessarily budgeted for with the USDA grant fund. So that included some of the Tower Garden supplies, additional planting materials, hose reels, some of the curriculum materials. So it was really something we were able to tap into to make purchases that kind of came up on an as-needed basis and kind of help move the program along without, delays that might have come from trying to, request permission from USDA to change our budget. And then obviously the value of the personnel time is significant at about $69,000 we've calculated. And that included the staff time from not only our department, but from the Regional Office of Education, the Juvenile Justice Center staff, as well as our partner, the Illinois Farm to School Network, also made significant contributions with the director's time and providing guidance to the teachers and helping them develop a very robust curriculum program. So we have calculated the total amount of time just in terms of man hours at over 1,600 hours over the 3-year period of the grant program. So it's really a significant in-kind contribution and really exceeded our original budgeted in-kind contribution by at least $30,000. So it's so we definitely met our obligation to the grant. So that worked out. And then lastly, I just wanted to highlight a career survey that is being conducted by the Illinois Agri-Food Alliance. So this is the organization that was formerly known as Farm Illinois. So it's kind of a combination of a think tank and an advocacy organization for food and agricultural businesses in the state of Illinois. And so they're conducting a survey right now on careers related to food and agriculture. And the intent is that they're looking to develop a new web resource that will help people navigate careers in the food and agricultural sector. So it's they're looking to create a new resource, and this survey is going to help them move along that process. So with that, I'd be happy to take any additional questions.
Well, Mark Van Kerkhoff's got a question.
I've got to put a couple of bows on Matt and the team's work out of the JJC. One, just a reminder, especially for newer board members, this whole idea started out of our internal planning cooperative team. Jennifer Becker, who's with KDOT, was volunteering with CASA and was concerned about the level of healthy food that was available to young people she was helping to service over at our own JJC, and we were at the time immersed in our own work with the health department and whatever for increasing the availability and promotion of healthy eating. And she rightly pointed out what's Kane County doing about the kids in our own care, and that launched into this multi-year, multi-department program, which it started small initially with a lot of work from Janice and the JJC and Matt and our team, just using some local funds. Grew into this successful application with the USDA, and all those person hour works that went into it. Those enthusiastic work. I mean, the entire team, from the teachers to the JJC staff to all of our partners, was really exciting to see, and the results, you saw the mural and some of the improvements to the garden that happened were a result of this work. So I want to thank Matt for his administration on the effort, but there's so many people involved in getting it started and doing it that it really is outstanding. And then the other bow I want to put on is we really want to see this work continue. So we're looking for ways to continue to support that. It's so important for career pathway development, opportunities for these students while they're in our care at the JJC. So that's also, kind of rolled into our package and things that we're looking at, how to continue this work and build on it. So thank you, Matt, and you'll hopefully hear more and have more opportunities to either through grants that we get or through other ways to support this work. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, Fraz, comment.
Yes. Okay.
I just want to mention a couple of things that were touched on today related to, agritourism and things like that and our rustic road program. I worked with Mark many years ago before I was on the board about getting Brundage Road in that rustic road program. And we just recently had our third organic farm open up on the road, which is only 1.5 miles long. And you would be absolutely amazed on Wednesdays and Saturdays when they're open, the traffic in a good way on the road. It's a gravel road, and just hundreds and hundreds of people belong to their programs where they pick up their vegetables weekly and so forth. So it's pretty cool. And then on another note, as far as agritourism, the county has supported the Kuipers Family Farm out in Maple Park for many, many years on different levels with zoning and drainage and so forth. And I was talking to Mr. Kuipers recently, and I was really amazed that in addition to their year-round full-time staff, they hire seasonally. They hire 250 people to work there during the season. So, and they're all local people, come in there and do 4 to 6 hours during the season, 7 days a week. And so anyways, the stuff does have an effect and in a big way. So I just want to pass those things on.
Thank you. Janice?
Yes, I just wanted to close by pointing out a couple of things from Matt's presentation and how it ties in with farmland protection. I have the vantage point of seeing programs throughout the country. Farmland protection programs, many of them are riddled with problems. Farmers that won't comply, funding, federal funding that is misallocated, and you do not have that at all. And Matt's documentation is the proof of that. And that comes from two things. That's good staff work that Matt has just shown you, everything that he does every year to prove to you that your investment and the federal investment was worth it, and there's compliance. And then of course the farmers, it's all with the farmers too. And that's something that we vet at the early part of the program. Do you really want to be a part of this? It's not for everybody. And it's a voluntary program. But I think you can, we are all so grateful, Ms. Allen, for what you have done, for helping to lead the effort to get a little bit extra money for us for this year, because it's going to be a pivotal year as we go into year 21. But it's really important for you to know that we're good stewards of that money, and that the farmers are good stewards and keep their promise and their commitment, and that we're doing our side of it. And Matt, does a fabulous job with this. And it's not easy because the federal regulations are complex, and he's expert in that. So I just want to point that out with big thank yous to both of them, the farmers and to Matt, for that, because it's one thing to get started in farmland protection at the beginning of the program, but this is a forever thing, right? So it takes a lot to go forever. We want to make sure that we're delivering on the millions of dollars this county has invested in this. And so I think it shows. So appreciation to both Matt and the farmers and you.
Anything else? Mr. Arnold, do we have any kind of a prize? If I had a question.
Everybody gets a peach.
Oh, okay, everybody gets a piece, okay. How many people, Deborah Allen, how many people does Kuipers hire on a part-time basis? 150. Isn't that some amazing number, isn't it? That is, and it's talking about employment and a good thing, good experience for these. They might not all be young people. but they're not old like me. This is just pending. Deborah?
I wanted to, I think this is something that I heard from you years ago about the farmland protection, was that this program started by our people showing up on farmers' doorsteps or at Farm Bureau gatherings saying, we're the government and we're here to help you, which from my modest background, having grandparents who were farmers, it's the kind of thing you're saying, get off my property, go away, leave us alone. And the fact that we still have a waiting list, right? So I just think we cannot compliment our staff too much, because those relationships with our farming community and government have been brought together by people like you, Mr. Kenyon, that you cross that bridge all the time. And you prove that it's okay, that government can in fact be helpful. But when you have Janice on your doorstep saying, here's a program that we think you might be interested in, and being able to sell it for all these years, it's just a kind of a wonderful thing of tying together our community so well. So, how do you say thanks enough for that?
Okay. Anything else? Do we need a motion to put the reports on file? Mr.
Leonard
Leonard,
moves.
Mr. Brown seconds. We have to have a roll call. I think the others have been. Okay. Roll call.
Brown? Fraz?
Yes.
Copey?
Copy, yes.
Leonard?
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
It passes.
Now we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Brown moves, Mrs. Allen seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye.